Fox News alert: the commander of the 82nd Airborne Division has just been ordered to report to the Middle East. The president's aiming to secure the Strait and maybe take Karg Island, Iran's crown jewel. The 82nd is a light infantry parachute assault unit, usually the tip of the spear, and can deploy anywhere in the world in less than 18 hours. Central Command has already bombed a ton of targets on Karg Island. You'd expect the paratroopers to drop in at night, secure airfields, do a quick repair job on the Strip, and pave the way for the Air Force and Marines to deliver more men, armor, and gear. It's risky, but once you control that island, you control Iran's economic lifeline. All this as more elements of U.S. Special Forces move into the Gulf. A recent surge in C-17 flights into the region indicate a light ground strike force could take action imminently. This wouldn't be a ground war. These units are designed for precision, speed, and impact. They bring together elite elements from the SEALs, Rangers, and Delta. Their job? Execute the most dangerous and sophisticated missions in the world, like dismantling networks and eliminating high-value targets. These special operators do it with minimal footprint and maximum effect. If there's a decisive blow to strike, these are the men to do it. Here's Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg.
I'm a big believer in putting boots on the ground, not necessarily into Iran, but taking Karg Island and also taking the Strait of Hormuz. Look, we kind of need to do it the way the Romans used to do it.
As this elite task force gets into position, what's left of the Iranian military is being crippled. We've achieved air supremacy, so our B-2s are refueling mid-flight and continuing to drop heavy ordnance. And we're getting help from the British.
B-52 bombers now launching strikes from RAF Fairford in Britain with a full complement of 24 2,000-pound satellite-guided penetrator bombs. Those normally need to be dropped 5 to 15 miles from the target.
All this is happening as we enter day 2 of the negotiations with the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament. The regime's now come under pressure from its last 2 allies. The Chinese and the Russians are telling Tehran to lay off the Strait and cut a deal before Trump seizes the oil. But even though the United States is in peace talks with the Iranians, both sides still letting it fly.
You can see first responders here that are at the scene of a ballistic missile impact in Tel Aviv. The side of this apartment building totally sheared off as the first responders are working to remove rubble and debris from this area. Multiple people were injured during the last Iranian ballistic missile barrage, and a significant amount of destruction was caused to this street, cars on the street, an apartment building sheared off of the side here in the northern part of Tel Aviv.
Iranian command and control is shot, so lone survivors are shooting till the powder runs dry, sometimes indiscriminately into residential buildings, sometimes at American allies. British Special Forces had to repel 14 Iranian kamikaze drones just last night in Iraq. But the president says it could all be over soon.
They have no anti-aircraft equipment left, no radar left, no leaders left. The leaders are all gone. Nobody knows who to talk to. But we're actually talking to the right people, and they want to make a deal so badly. You have no idea how badly they want to make a deal, and we'll see what happens.
The Secretary of War says the U.S. military is performing exquisitely.
Never has a modern military been so rapidly and historically obliterated, defeated, from day one with overwhelming firepower. That's why we see ourselves as part of this negotiation as well. We negotiate with bombs. You have a choice as we loiter over the top of Tehran, as the president talked about your future. The president has made it clear that you will not have a nuclear weapon. The War Department agrees. Our job is to ensure that.
We told the mullahs we'd turn the lights off, and within hours, they came to the table. And they brought a gift.
They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. And it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize. And they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it. So that meant one thing to me: we're dealing with the right people.
Is it related to the Strait of Hormuz and the flow?
Yeah, it was related to the flow and to the Strait, yeah.
Text me at the end of the show what you think the gift is, because I have no idea. We do know the Iranians can't bribe their way out of this. The American objectives haven't changed.
Remember, it all starts with they cannot have a nuclear weapon. Just, I said yesterday, they said, what are the top 10? I said, well, number 1, 2, and 3 is they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. And we're talking about that. And I don't want to say in advance, but they've agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that.
Iran's told every administration they don't want a nuclear weapon. So that's a lie. So what's changed? Now they can't do anything about it when we verify it. That's why Trump says he's going to go in and take the uranium. And this just in, the New York Times reporting that the Trump administration has delivered to Iran, by way of Pakistan, a 15-point peace plan. The New York Times reports that Iran may have trouble delivering a quick response. Senior Iranian officials have been struggling to communicate internally, and they worry Israel could just bomb them if they meet in person. And we reportedly gave the Iranian speaker immunity, so no one's going to kill him for the next 5 days or 4 days. An Israeli source says Trump's also demanding 0 uranium enrichment. 0. Now, why aren't we negotiating with a new Ayatollah? Exactly. No one's seen him or heard him. The Iranian people now have a new nickname for the gay supreme leader. You ready? The cardboard Ayatollah. The whole world's waking up to the Iranian threat. Arab nations are accusing Tehran of committing terrorism against every country on earth. It's not just the senseless drone attacks and blocking oil tankers. Iran's blocking the flow of fertilizer. A lot of people are going to go hungry if the regime doesn't surrender. They've even gotten the Saudis and the Israelis on the same page. Imagine that. Both countries want regime change. And the international naval convoy has grown from 22 countries to 30. Rubio strung them together and has been hitting the phones pretty much nonstop. The British Royal Navy will spearhead the coalition. Hopefully, this means America and its allies are getting ready to win the peace. J.D. Vance has also been a part of the negotiations with Tehran. A White House official tells Axios the situation's fluid. If we don't strike a deal, we'll go back to bombing them. The Pentagon says, fine with us.
I don't want to say this, but I have to. I said, Pete and General Raisin Kane, I think this thing's going to be settled very soon. Here they go. Oh, that's too bad. Pete didn't want it to be settled. These guys are doing a great job.
The commander-in-chief looks to be laying the groundwork for a final act. The Strait's the key. Carg Island, the cherry on top. Their military has been decimated, but we still have a little work to do removing the uranium. Now, even if the regime loses and a few regime remnants are still intact, they'll claim they won. And the media, they'll probably agree.
If you read the papers, you think we're tied. You think we're in a tough battle. We are roaming free over Tehran, the city, Tehran, as opposed to Iran. We're roaming free. We can do whatever we want.
The media is just parroting Iranian state TV. Just yesterday, the president says we were negotiating with Iran. And the press said, that's not what Iran said.
We've learned that Donald Trump has been lying to the American people from the start, and he keeps lying to the American people.
So you believe the Iranian officials over the President of the United States?
I believe that based on all the information that's available and Donald Trump's track record of lying.
The leaders of the Iranian regime, they lie. I think the problem is we don't know if our president is also telling the truth.
I tend to believe Iran more than I do Donald Trump because he could not acknowledge the truth even when it is, he's slapped in the face with it repeatedly.
Why would the president lie about talking? All he does is talk. He talks to everybody, all day, all night. He was talking to Maduro hours before he snatched him in his PJs. Now, Obama's CIA director, he's running a psyop. He's trying to undermine the commander-in-chief 3 weeks into a war by spitting enemy propaganda. Or he just has TDS. Brennan lied about Russia, the laptop, Biden's brain. Who cares what he says? Brennan and his boss, Barry, gave the Mullahs billions in cash and believed them when they said they weren't building a nuke. Oops. An hour later, Brennan looked like a fool.
There's important breaking news coming into the Situation Room. We're now learning from a senior Iranian source that there has been an outreach between the U.S. and Iran.
So Wolf will take the cardboard Ayatollah's word for it, but not the commander-in-chief's? Listen, politicians lie during war, both sides. You have a right to question what they say, but we're 3 weeks into this thing, and Iran's military is almost gone, and we're zeroing in on the oil while we're talking peace. I think it's going well. Now, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'm hoping it turns out well. JP Morgan's CEO, Jamie Dimon, says if this thing does go well, the payoff for America will be huge.
I think the Iran war makes it a better chance in the long run. It's probably riskier in the short run because we don't know the outcome of it. That attitude, that is not what the attitude was 20 years ago. They all want it. They can't have neighbors like, lob ballistic missiles into their data centers thinking that people are going to put $10 billion in a data center.
So the next hours are critical. If Iran's serious about a deal, we'll get there. If they refuse, Trump's justified to take the strait and seize the island because American paratroopers are almost there.
Want even more Fox News on YouTube? Become a Fox News Patriot today. Click join to find out how.